Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're looking at ServiceNow, ticker symbol NNOW, and figuring out if it's a stock that belongs in your portfolio. We've got a bunch of research and data to unpack, so let's get started.
ServiceNow is an interesting one, right? I mean, they're not building those flashy apps we use every day, games and social media. They're all about helping those big companies, the enterprises, manage their digital workflows. It's kind of like all that behind the scenes stuff that keeps businesses running.
Yeah, so maybe not as exciting as the latest TikTok trend, but definitely probably more essential in the long run. I see here they were founded back in 2003 by Fred Luddy. Seems like he had some experience in this type of software even before ServiceNow.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Luddy was actually the CTO at Peregrine Systems.
Peregrine Systems, rings a bell.
Well, they actually went bankrupt. Some big accounting issues there, so you can kind of think of ServiceNow as his second act.
Hmm, interesting. A comeback story, but this time it's built for the cloud, right?
Exactly, cloud computing era. And they've come a long way since then. Went public in 2012, raised a ton of money, and now they're competing with the giants, IBM, Microsoft, all the big names.
Wow, okay, so they've clearly got a track record of innovation. But let's get down to brass tacks here. What about their financials? Are they actually, making money? Because that's ultimately what matters for us as investors, right?
All right, well, let's look at the numbers. ServiceNow pulled in almost $9 billion in revenue in 2023. And their cash flow growth, it's fantastic, almost 33% year over year. So yeah, they're definitely making money, and they're turning those profits into even more growth, which is always a good sign.
That's a big green flag for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so financially they seem to be doing well, but what about the competition? They're in a pretty crowded market going up against some really big players.
Yeah, it's a tough landscape out there, that's for sure. You've got Microsoft, you mentioned IBM, Salesforce, huge companies with tons of resources. But ServiceNow is holding its own, and they're making some smart moves to stay ahead of the curve.
Like that partnership with NVIDIA. Seems like a big deal, bringing AI to all those large corporations.
Huge deal. And this isn't just about using general AI, like what we see with ChatGPT. It's about creating custom AI solutions, tailored to each company's specific data, making AI really work for businesses in new ways.
So they're not just riding the AI wave, they're trying to, shape it.
Exactly. And on top of that, they've been on a bit of an acquisition spree, picking up companies that can boost their AI capabilities even further.
Right, like that for-industry acquisition. That one brought them some serious expertise in manufacturing AI. Smart factories, all that.
Yep, they're always thinking a few steps ahead.
It's like they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
Maybe. But all this innovation, all this growth, it has to come at a price, right? What about their valuation?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are they worth the price?
Well, some of the metrics do suggest that ServiceNow might be a little overvalued at the moment, but then you have Zacks, and they're a pretty respected research firm, giving ServiceNow a buy rating, projecting some above-average returns. So it's kind of like a puzzle.
So maybe we're paying a premium for that future growth potential. Tough call.
It is tough, but it's not the whole picture. ServiceNow also has a pretty thriving services business, and they've been acquiring companies like Ultimate Suite. That one helps businesses analyze and improve their workflows, get rid of those inefficiencies that just eat up time and money.
Yeah, streamlining everything. I was reading about that. Sounds pretty useful, actually.
It is. And they've also acquired companies specializing in things like API management. It's all about making sure those systems can talk to each other, which is becoming more and more crucial as businesses rely on all these interconnected, platforms and tools and everything.
So they're not just building software, they're building a whole ecosystem for how work gets done in this digital age. And it's not just about the U.S. market either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they announce a huge investment in the U.K.?
Yeah, that $1.5 billion investment. Big statement. They're committed to global growth, and they're talking about supporting digital transformation initiatives, creating jobs. It's not all about profits.
Which brings us to something that's becoming increasingly important for investors, those ESG factors. Environment, social, and governance. Where does ServiceNow stand on all that?
It's interesting. I mean, think about it. Their platform is all about efficiency. So inherently, that can lead to less waste, a smaller carbon footprint. And they're promoting their ESG initiatives, especially with that UK investment we just talked about.
So they're putting their money where their mouth is, not just talk.
It seems that way. But it's always important to look beyond the headlines, No company's perfect. Do your own research. Really try to understand the nuances of their ESG performance. But on the surface, yeah, ServiceNow seems to be making a genuine effort.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. History, financials, competition, those ESG factors even touched on their valuation. But before we go any further, let's take a step back, kind of recap what we've learned so far.
All right, so on the plus side, we've got a company with a proven track record of innovation. Their financial performance is impressive. They've got a clear strategy for navigating this crazy tech landscape that's constantly evolving. They're making strategic acquisitions, investing in global markets, and yeah, they seem to be committed to those ESG principles.
That sounds pretty good so far. But what about the downsides? Any red flags we should be aware of?
Well, there's that valuation question. Are you okay with potentially paying a premium for future growth? And, remember those security issues they had back in 2024.
Over 1,000 of their instances were leaking data. That's
It's a lot. And while they did address it, and it's important to remember that every company has vulnerabilities, it is a reminder that even the most innovative companies can have weaknesses.
it's a high-stakes game, that's for sure. All right, so we're coming up on the end of part 1 of our deep dive into ServiceNow. We still have a few more things to explore.
All right, so welcome back. Let's keep digging into ServiceNow and see if the stock really is a good fit for you.
We've covered a lot, but before we get to those ESG factors, I want to talk about something investors always love to hear about: dividends and buybacks. What's ServiceNow's policy?
Okay, so the data shows ServiceNow hasn't paid any dividends to its shareholders in the past 12 months.
No dividends. Should investors be worried about that?
Not necessarily. Actually, it's pretty common, especially for those companies that are really focused on rapid growth. Instead of paying dividends, they often reinvest those profits back into the business, trying to expand even further.
So they're betting on long-term growth, hoping to create more value down the line, higher share prices, all that.
Exactly. Prioritizing market share expansion, developing new products and services, just building a bigger, stronger company overall.
Makes sense. What about share buybacks? Are they repurchasing any of their stock?
That's a good question. And to be honest, the information we have doesn't say anything about a share buyback program. You might have to dig a little deeper on that one.
Duly noted. I'll add that to my research list. But for now, let's shift gears and talk about those ESG factors.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how it is. More and more investors are paying attention to a company's impact on the world, right? Environment, social issues, governance, all that. What's the story with ServiceNow?
Well, that $1.5 billion investment in the UK we talked about, that's a big piece of the puzzle. It's not just about profits, it's about creating positive social impact, supporting that digital transformation, boosting the economy, creating jobs. Plus, they're expanding their data centers in London and Newport, which suggests a real commitment to building sustainable infrastructure.
So thinking globally, acting locally,
hmm
and their platform itself is all about those digital workflows, right? That has to be good for the environment. Less paper, less waste, all that.
It definitely has the potential to reduce a company's carbon footprint. Streamlining workflows, automating tasks, all of that eliminates unnecessary steps, cuts down on waste. And they're even providing tools for other businesses to improve their own sustainability. Remember, their platform has those modules specifically focused on ESG factors.
So it sounds like they're actually trying to integrate those principles into their core business strategy. For investors who care about that stuff, it's a good sign.
It is, but you know me, I always say it. Do your homework. No company is perfect. Got to look beyond the headlines, Really dig deep, understand the whole scope of their ESG performance.
Solid advice. So we've covered their financials, market position, services, all these ESG factors, and even their valuation. But at the end of the day, here's the big question. Is this a stock that belongs in your portfolio?
That's a question that only you can answer based on your individual circumstances and goals, right?
Come on, you're the expert. Give us some guidance.
All right. I can share some insights based on what we know. But ultimately, the decision comes down to you. Your risk tolerance, investment timeline, how ServiceNow sits into your overall strategy, all of that.
Okay, fair enough. Let's say I'm listening right now, trying to make up my mind about ServiceNow. What are the key factors I should be thinking about?
Okay, first, time horizon. Are you in it for the long haul? Are you comfortable with the ups and downs, the volatility of the market? Or are you looking for quick returns? ServiceNow, it's a growth stock, big potential gains, but also more risk than, say, a well-established blue chip company.
So it could be a wild ride, huh?
Maybe. And next, you've got to think about your risk tolerance. How much are you willing to lose on an investment? All investments have some risk, but growth stocks tend to be a bit riskier, Higher potential reward, but also higher potential for loss.
Okay, time horizon, risk tolerance, got it. What else?
Well, how about alignment with your values? Does ServiceNow's mission resonate with you? their focus on digital transformation, their ESG efforts, all of that. Do those things align with what you believe in as an investor?
It's not just about the money. It's about supporting companies you believe in.
Exactly. And finally, don't forget about opportunity cost. By putting your money into ServiceNow, are you missing out on other investments that might be a better fit or offer even higher returns? You got to weigh your options.
So many decisions.
But that's what makes investing so interesting, right? You're in control, shaping your own financial future.
It can be a bit overwhelming, though, to be honest.
Oh, I get it. That's why it's so important to do your research. Talk to a financial advisor if you need to, and ultimately make informed decisions, ones that align with your goals and circumstances.
Great advice. I think we've done a pretty good job of, exploring ServiceNow, giving you the information you need to start making those decisions. But remember,
This is just the beginning. The market is always changing. Stay informed, stay curious, and
join us for part 3, where we'll wrap things up and share some final thoughts on ServiceNow and what the future holds. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our look at ServiceNow, and hopefully by now you've got a pretty good idea of whether it's a stock that you should invest in or not.
yeah, it's been quite a journey. I mean, from those unusual beginnings, rising from the ashes of a corporate scandal to now, one of the leaders in digital transformation.
Yeah, quite a story. But before we officially, close the book on ServiceNow, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the importance of looking, beyond the headlines. What are some things investors should really be paying attention to, when it comes to a company like ServiceNow? Stuff that maybe isn't so obvious at first glance.
That's a great question. One thing that often gets overlooked is the strength of the management team. Are they experienced? Do they have a clear vision for the future? And just as important, can they actually execute on that vision?
So we're not just looking at the company's plans, but the people who are actually running the show.
Exactly. Another thing to consider is the company culture. Is it innovative? Are they attracting tech talent? Is it a collaborative environment? A strong company culture can be a really good indicator of long-term success.
Yeah, like they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Exactly. And finally, don't underestimate the importance of staying up to date on industry trends. The tech world is constantly changing, evolving at such a rapid pace. What new technologies could potentially disrupt ServiceNow's business? What challenges and opportunities are coming down the road? These are all things investors need to be thinking about.
So basically, don't just buy a stock and forget about it. You've got to stay engaged, keep learning, adapt your strategy as needed.
Absolutely. Investing, it's a dynamic process, not just a one-time transaction.
Well said. I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive here into ServiceNow,
Ah,
covered a lot of ground, and hopefully you now have a much better sense of whether this company is a good fit for you, for your portfolio.
and remember, investing always involves some level of risk. Past performance is never a guarantee of future results. Do your research, consult with a financial advisor if you need to, and make decisions that make sense for your individual situation.
That's great advice. And before we go, don't forget to head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and let us know what other companies or topics you'd like us to, deep dive into next. We'd love hearing from you.
Until next time, keep diving.